Greetings friends, Jawless Paul here. A few months back I released a video going over the boss fights in Hades. In this video I'm going to go over the extreme measures versions of each of those fights, as well as looking at the Fury Sisters and what each of their moves are. If you're wondering why you would want to do this, going all the way to EM4 gives you 10 additional heat, so if you're trying to build up your heat for bounties, this is a great way to do it. And I actually think the extreme measures fights are a lot of fun, and some people even think that some of them are even easier than the original fights. Again, this video contains some spoilers for these fights, so if you haven't tried the extreme measures boss fights yet, I encourage you to go and try them, and then once you've done that, come and check out the video if you're having trouble beating any of the bosses. I hope this video is helpful. If it is, please consider liking it and leave a comment below if you have a question or a comment to make, and then subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Alright, let's get into it. The Fury Sisters. Before we get to the EM versions of this fight, let's talk about Megara's sisters, Tisiphone and Alecto. These fights are very different from Meg's, so let's take a close look at their moves. Let's start with Alecto. Alecto is considered by some to be the most challenging of the Fury Sisters. She has a number of moves that fill the screen with projectiles, and she has a Blade Rift ability that can do a lot of damage. Additionally, her room is filled with traps, and she has a rage meter that she charges up, and her attacks are more powerful when it's fully charged. During the first two phases, she might stop briefly to enrage, but on the final phase, she is always enraged. Alecto's first move is she performs a quick dash that, when enraged, also fires projectiles. There's a brief tell just before she dashes that lets you know she's dashing and in what direction. Her second move is she slashes in a wide area in front of her. When enraged, she also fires projectiles. Her third move is she spins and chases you around, creating red circles that do damage. When enraged, she moves faster and the circles appear faster as well. Her fourth move is she creates a Blade Rift, which does quick damage, staggers you, and pushes you around the room. When enraged, these Blade Rifts are larger. There are several tactics that can help in the Alecto fight. As with every boss, the higher your damage, the quicker the fight will go, and thus you'll be attacked less and take less damage. I'm not going to go into specific builds that are strong, there are plenty of videos out there for that. During her spinny chase phase, you can continually run her through the traps in the room. This is a nice tactic to get a bit more damage during this part of the fight. It should be noted that during her charge up period, you have to do damage to her and get her to the next phase, otherwise she will enrage and do extra damage to you. This is a great time to attack her because she stands still, and other than firing a couple projectiles, she is harmless.
I'm back, ladies.
Next, let's talk about Tisiphone. Tisiphone has a number of moves that are fairly easy to avoid during the first two phases of the fight. However, as the fight progresses, the room gets smaller and smaller, making it difficult to avoid her attacks. Her first move is she snaps her whip, which stuns you if it connects. She follows her whip attack with a charge that also fires projectiles to the side. This move has a tell that makes it pretty easy to spot. You can see her spinning her whip behind her right before she snaps it at you. At that point, you want to dodge out of the way. Her second move is a triple attack that can be quite fast and has a large area of effect. Learning the timing for this move is essential. Her third move is she summons a row of circles. She creates a row of circles that explode and at later phases create several rows at the same time. And her fourth move is she stands still, firing projectiles all around her in waves. The best way to deal with that is just to dash through the waves. Don't worry about attacking her during this part of the fight. You can easily get staggered by the sheer number of projectiles that she's firing.
Ready, sisters?
Okay, let's talk about the Extreme Measures Furious Sisters fight. With one rank in Extreme Measures, you'll face off against more than one of them. There will be one primary sister, and the other two will provide support. The primary sister is no different than a regular boss fight. However, the sisters in the support role will have their own new moves to make your life difficult. Sometimes you will face one primary and one support, and sometimes there will be two supports. When Tisiphone is involved, her two moves as a support are to temporarily obscure the screen with a green mist, as well as carpet bombing the room with rows of exploding circles. Of the three, Tisiphone is the worst when in the support role. The obscuring the screen is really difficult to deal with. It's hard to avoid the attacks of the other sisters, and the carpet bomb fills the screen and can be quite difficult to avoid taking damage with. Alecto will summon blade rifts that basically do the same thing they do when she is the primary sister. She will also do her exploding chasing circle move, with the difference being that the circle stays stationary. Finally, Meg will create a giant circle at your location that explodes after a brief moment. She also creates a circle that fires missile volleys around the arena. There's no way to kill off the support sisters when they are present. The best you can do is just avoid their attacks when they are providing support. Fights get pretty crazy when all three of the sisters are involved. The odd thing about this EM fight is that for a long time I really struggled against the additional sisters, until one day I just didn't have trouble with it anymore. Partially it's learning how to avoid the additional attacks, but also just figuring out when it's safe to do damage and when you are better off dashing to the other side of the room. I've given this advice before, and maybe it seems a little counterintuitive, but while you're learning these fights, try to make them last as long as possible. This will give you a chance to practice dashing against the various attacks that they have, and will also teach you when it's safe to unload on them. Alright, let's move on to Extreme Measures Hydra.
Good day, men. And now, prepare to die.
With two ranks in Extreme Measures, you face the Hydra in a new arena full of lava and much smaller than the regular arena. This Hydra fight isn't terribly different from the regular Hydra fight, except that the Hydra has more health and the layout is different, with lava rivers through the arena and the heads spawning much closer together. Some people actually prefer this layout because it allows you to kill more heads at one time. High damage AoE builds especially excel in this version of the Hydra fight. This is also the preferred speedrunning Hydra fight because you can kill more heads faster. There's not a whole lot to say about this fight except that you want to avoid the lava and you have less space to work with, but if you have some decent AoE, you should be able to take out the heads faster than you would in the original arena. It feels like there should be more to say about the EM2 Hydra fight, but it really just is a new arena. I can't stress enough just how amazing AoE is with this fight. Even if you're not used to using certain AoE abilities like the Rail's bomb ability, those can deal so much damage to multiple enemies it makes the boss fight nearly trivial. Poseidon's splash dash is another example here. Okay, let's talk about the Asterius and Theseus Chapions fight. Extreme Measures 3 is where things start to really ramp up in difficulty in my opinion. Both the champions have extra health, and Asterius is wearing a golden set of armor, and Theseus has a chariot with miniguns? Asterius now creates a large damaging shockwave when he does his leap slam ability, so you can no longer remain close to him during this move. He also has a slow wind-up spin attack that covers a very large area of the arena. You can hear him charging this up, and when he does, you want to get far away from him if you can. This can be difficult to avoid, so you have to watch out for the wind-up and sound effect before he starts spinning. His charge ability is also faster and does more damage, but is otherwise the same. Theseus, on the other hand, has an entirely different moveset. He will launch bombs all around the room and occasionally charge through the middle of the arena, firing the cannons. He actually moves quite quickly, so it can be difficult to track his movements with the rail special or the bow regular attack. The bombs he launches do a lot of damage, so it's very important to avoid these at all costs. He also does damage if you are hit by the chariot as it's moving. Once you get him to 50% health, his chariot explodes and he is invulnerable for a brief period until he starts summoning a god to help. At this point, he is basically back to his regular self for the rest of the fight. Some fun tips I never realized before was that you can actually lead Asterius' charge into Theseus. This does damage to him and also stuns him for a second or two. Also, you want to keep an eye out for when he stops by the side of the arena to get confetti thrown at him and to talk to the crowd. This is the perfect time to unleash as much damage as possible against him. This is a really tough fight. It's very chaotic, and there are a lot of instances where your only option is to time your dashes perfectly to avoid damage. Athena's dash is great here because it can bounce back Theseus' bombs. It should also be noted that this is the only extreme measures level that also affects a champion fight. If you fight Asterius by himself in Elysium, he will have golden armor, extra health, and his upgraded moves. My typical strategy is to take Theseus down as quickly as possible so that he stops firing bombs. These do a lot of damage to you, so taking him out first is very beneficial. I think this is the fight that's going to stop a lot of people in their tracks. If you have a strategy that works particularly well against this boss fight, please leave a comment below. Alright friends, we finally made it to the final boss. If you've made it this far, well done. This is a tough journey in extreme measures, and you should be proud of yourself. Hades becomes a much more difficult boss in EM4. I will go over each of these moves, but honestly, I'd encourage you to work on consistently beating EM3 for a while before putting on EM4. You'll probably lose against him a lot, and that can be discouraging if you've just gotten used to the regular fight. Alright, let's break down this dumpster fire of a boss fight. Many things remain the same in this fight as was the original. I'll only go over the new or modified moves in this video, as I've already made a video about everything else. First of all, some of the things you learned about Hades' moves before may cause you to struggle with this fight. For instance, his spin attack is now immediately followed by another spin. This really threw me off for a long time, and it makes that move so much more difficult to avoid. Additionally, sometimes instead of a spin, he'll throw his spear for 50 damage. The minions he summons will now be champions from Tartarus, Asphodel, and Elysium as well. In Phase 2, he can now throw the spear after his 2 attacks in addition to the spin. Additionally, his laser attack now has a pulsing component that prevents standing on top of Hades to avoid damage. He can heal himself by consuming urns on the battlefield. However, if you look closely, one of the urns glows right before it heals him, and you could destroy this urn and stop him from healing. Without destroying any of the urns, he can heal 4,500 health this way, so it's a good idea to either focus on unloading damage on him or destroy the urns before they can heal him. Ideally, you would do both if you can manage it. He also just summons way more urns in the EM4 fight, so heightened security is even more dangerous. Another fun thing about Phase 2 is that Hades summons Cerberus. It can be quite difficult to avoid the damage from the falling blocks, but timing your dashes just right can avoid the damage entirely, or maybe you just get lucky and nothing drops in your area. But wait friends, there's more, because now Hades will get back up another time to fight you some more in a third phase. His health only regenerates to 3/4 full, which is nice, but during this phase, the screen is darkened, Hades' moves are all faster, and Hades can go invisible again. Maybe it only seems like he's going faster because of the music, but it does seem like his moves come faster and there's less of a gap between his attacks. Okay, here are some tips that might help. Always remember that he spins twice. This will do a lot of damage to you the first few times you fight him because it's such a different rhythm from the regular fight. However, after the second spin is a brief moment where he stops attacking, and this is a great time to attack him, similarly to how you could attack him after the spin in the regular fight. Another great time to attack him, as with the original fight, is when he is summoning more pots. The pillars do a great job of helping you avoid damage and managing the distance between you and Hades. This is a really tough fight and there's not much I can say to make it easier. Don't forget to use all of the tools at your disposal, your dash attack, your cast stones, whatever they are. Make sure you're using all of those things to do as much damage as possible. Every little bit counts. Alright friends, thanks for watching. I hope that video was helpful for you. I really enjoy making these types of videos, but they do take a long time, and so you sitting and watching all the way to the end makes a big difference to me, so thank you for that. If you have any thoughts or comments about things that I should have talked about in the video, please let me know in the comments below. I'm super excited to hear all of your tips and tricks for these boss fights. There certainly is a lot to learn and to know about them. We'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.